Two procurement nerds are back, and I don't even think we've recorded for like 2 or 3 weeks. Partially my fault because I was on a road show, Scottsdale, San Antonio, Cabo, and you've had travel sprinkled in and out as well. So nice to be back.
Nice to be back too. I missed this so much, and I probably have texted you like 100 times with, "Hey, I've got an idea for an episode, and what about this idea?" And so
Our
I've
topic list is growing, which is I love to see. And I totally outside of the box, right? All of it, some of the things we talk about, I think aren't obviously related to procurement, but a lot of them tie back, and we'll make sure that on those episodes we show the tie-in.
yeah. Um, all right. So today's topic is guerrilla marketing, and for those that don't know, that is, I'm gonna give you my Chat GPT answer. It's a sort of a creative, unconventional marketing strategy that uses surprise, disruption, or low-cost tactics to achieve maximum exposure and impact, especially when resources are limited. Now, I mean, so I think low cost, high creativity is a good way to think about it. There is always an element of surprise, something we haven't seen before. In the social media age, very much viral. Although those of us that are older will remember many a sort of pre-social media ways of. In fact, actually, the first example I'm going to give you um, is before social media, but now with social media, the viral potential makes this exponential. It's typically meant to have a grass feel, like just the people got together and did something, and certainly it tap into or to tap into an emotional response.
Yeah.
And so it has been really, really popular in the software space, and perhaps none other than Marc Benioff and Salesforce in early days at the big Siebel conference, which was their big competitor in the sales area. During their big conference here in San Francisco, he staged fake protests and hired actors to be TV crews and protesters outside the event. And so, anyway, to promote the idea of cloud in the software in the cloud versus buying a bunch of seats from Siegel. So that's guerrilla marketing, Sarah.
What comes to my mind when we say guerrilla marketing are flash mobs.
Yeah.
So those, I don't know if they're still popular. I think they're kind of random, but they were a big thing for a while. And that is kind of how I would describe the visual to someone to explain what guerrilla marketing is.
Yeah.
I think a couple key things that you said that are important is typically no or low cost. So these are things where you're not spending, any money in some cases, or it's very, very small budget. And it's got to be something that's bold and edgy and unconventional, typically. So this is not for your super corporate, by the book person. This is folks that are okay taking a risk, making a mark. You might upset some people, and you have to be okay with that. And so I think there's a lot of fun things that companies can do with this. And in particular, with us being at so many conferences the last couple of months, I was actually thinking about ideas when I was at SIG, for example, and there was all the procure tech companies in the innovation hall. And I started thinking about some of the fun, creative things those brands could be doing during the show to stand out and make a mark, right? Kind of be that company that everybody talks about after the show. And
Well,
it's
you have like you can like that. You could bottle that and sell that yourself.
so I have an example, and I swear we had already planned this topic before last week, but could not have been any better. I text Dr. Elouise. I don't know if it was like at what time at midnight, but I was like, I just experienced guerrilla marketing in the wild, and we have to talk about this on the show. So I'll start off with my example from last week. So my company launched a data center asset management product this year, meaning being able to track, control, effectively manage all of the assets. So the things that you buy that go in a data center, these are things in rack, for example, your racks, your enclosures. There's a whole world out there just focus on data center. And let me tell you, it is booming. This
Yes.
conference was sold out. People were there. Tons of people were lobby crashing because they couldn't get tickets. Super lively energy. It was just awesome. The conference was called 7x24 Exchange, and 7x24 is actually a nonprofit organization that was put together, I don't even know actually when it was many, many years ago. I think this was something like their 28th or 29th conference. It's been around a while. And it's to elevate and promote and move forward the data center space. So it started very grassroots. It's become a much larger, more operational organization now. And they do a fall and spring conference. I did not go to their spring conference in Orlando. It was in San Antonio last week. And so myself and two team members went, we sponsored, which for most sponsors, it's a table. It's not like your typical massive booths where you've got, a huge room. This was a little bit different of a format. But anyway, so great conference, loved the community, super high energy. I have so many new friends. I've been texting and messaging. Someone invited me to an event next week. So I can't say enough good things about the people that I met at this conference. But sidebar into this guerrilla marketing example. So it was at the JW in San Antonio, which is a pretty large, beautiful property. And when you walk in the lobby and you go downstairs, there's a massive bar and like lounge lobby hangout area. And this was a hopping area all day. A lot of people would skip out on sessions or have meetings throughout the day. So the first night of the conference, it's packed down there. And I heard people already mentioning a guy named Pete. And they said, "Oh, have you met Pete yet?" And I said, "No, first time at the conference. I didn't see him today." They go, "Oh, just you wait." So people were talking about him and what was going to happen before it happened. And almost exactly at 11:30 at night, here comes down one of those carts where you put your luggage on and the bellboy or the bell person will bring it to your room. Well, he takes one of those and he buys 30 Papa John pizzas and he stacks them up and he brings them down. And then at the top, he's got a cutout of himself with a really funny slogan that ties back to pizza because that's kind of the theme and the branding that he's done. And it's got a QR code. So to get a pizza, you have to give him a business card. So the second Pete comes down, he is mobbed by conference people. He opens, so everyone gets in line. They give a business card. They get their pizza slice. He went through those pizzas. I should have timed it because I wasn't prepared. I didn't know it was going to happen. Probably in 20 minutes.
Wow.
Okay. He does it every night.
Oh my God.
So he's known as Pizza Pete. That's what everyone at the conference calls him. He is a recruiter, so a headhunter for the data center space. And he has rebranded himself as Pizza Pete. And his last name rebranded is now Pete Picaza. So that's kind of a play on. And then he also has branded pizza cutters.
Oh,
You
nice.
get a pizza slice and then you get a pizza cutter with his logo on it. So he does this for 3 nights. what does a Papa John's pizza cost? $12,
Yeah,
right?
something like that.
So $12, and he does, let's say he does 100 pizzas. That cost him less than $1,500, way less than buying a pass to the conference, way less than doing a sponsorship. And I can tell you, every single person at that bar knew who Pizza Pete was after he delivered his pizzas. He's an icon in the industry because of it. And he's known, and people were talking about it during the conference.
Yeah.
And that to me is a brilliant example of guerrilla marketing.
So let's just recap: low cost, high creativity, catching people when their guard is down. And I don't mean that negatively. It just,
No, but
if
people are
everybody's
drinking and they're hungry and they're right.
exactly, yeah. So it's got the element of surprise, viral potential, just because you just
Oh, well, I took
described it.
pictures, and imagine me taking pictures and posting them. Let's say 3 other people did that.
Yep.
Right there, he just got all this quote free branding and marketing because he bought pizzas.
And I mean, if you didn't know, you were surprised, and certainly has that grassroots feel of, hey, and like and what I love about it, I when you texted me, I was just like, oh my God, that's brilliant, because the conference is over for the day, everybody's
Right.
gone, and eight, and like probably, I'm guessing everybody just breaks off for dinner, goes all
Yep.
drinks, does whatever they do. But then there's this sort of gravitational pull back to the bar where everybody's just hanging out because they don't want to go to bed yet. And then he's like hitting that, like there's nobody else. He's not competing against anybody else at that moment in the evening. So he's got full, like, captive audience. Maybe not the whole conference, but I bet that's the hit rate on that is, yeah, amazing.
And we'll drop it in the show notes, but if you want to look him up online, his name is Peter and his last name is Kazella. If you want to check him out on LinkedIn. But the second night he did it, and I didn't expect that he was going to do it every night, but it's
Yeah,
even more reinforcement, right? So
yeah.
it was smart. It was like not once, not twice, 3 times. So I went up and talked to him and I said, you will not believe this, but Dr. E and I host a podcast. We're talking about guerrilla marketing next week. And I want to open our show with this. I said, I just love this example. So he kind of gave me the history and the background. He's been doing it for years now. So it's just kind of a thing that people talk about. Everybody knows, people expect it. And he said what it's done for his brand and his pipeline is incredible. And it costs him less than, $3,000 a year because he
Yeah.
does it at both of their conferences. So you've got to, but again, just and then I said, well, are you ever going to change it up? Like once you do this, is there a risk in going rogue? So he actually, for the first time at the show that I was at last week, he added cold beer to the mix.
Ah,
What he does now, and this was his first time, so he was testing it. So he didn't interfere with anything to do with the pizza. The bar, which is insane to me because they were making so much money, closes at midnight in the property. And so people aren't done drinking or socializing. So what he did is he bought coolers, the kind with the handle and the wheels, and he put them on one of those bellboy carts and then opens it up and then he hands beer out after the bar is closed. So
ah,
he determined how beer and pizza kind of goes together. He couldn't do it at the same time because they won't let him do the alcohol until the bar is closed.
right.
I think it would have been more impactful if it was together. But I'm actually going to follow up with him. I'm going to send him our episode once we release it, and I'm going to follow up with him and ask him how the beer went.
Yeah, and but the other thing I would say, which it strikes me as you're talking, is he's trained the audience, quote unquote, like the constituents. He's trained them so that they know to expect pizza. And so it probably grows. And like when people were saying, "Have you met Pete yet? Have you met Pete yet?" Like
Yes.
like it's become a thing that people can rely on, which is even, like, to me, that takes it to the whole new level of engagement. I just think it's great.
Yeah. So love that Pete has done this. And I think this is something that is an idea that folks can think about as you're planning out your, let's say our audience is mostly people in procurement and you work for a procure tech brand. Think about how you can do something like this at your next conference where you're testing something out that's a little bit different, that is going to be memorable and stand out, other than having, stupid water bottles or keychains that you pass out that nobody wants.
Yeah, nobody wants, and increasingly are not taking.
Yeah.
I remember like decades ago, you'd go around and come back with a whole suitcase full of swag, and maybe it's just because I'm getting older, but I also noticed people aren't carrying bags full of tchotchkes and whatnot because I think we've moved beyond that. So that's a much better idea.
Yeah. All right. I think you have a couple. I have another example, but I'll let you go next. I came across it when I was on a girls' trip in Cabo last week, and it's very outlandish and fun. And so I'll circle back to mine after we let you.
Well, I want to one of them's one you told me, so this is going to be a joint one, but it's just really struck or stuck in my head, and so credit to Level Path. Um, but I was with Stan and Alex and Mari and Michaela, like the whole Level Path team is at DPW a couple weeks ago, and I've spent a lot of time hanging out with them. Alex and Stan and I were on the same flight. So, like, to me, Level Path had temporarily relocated to Amsterdam. And I thought, which is great. Like, that's what I would expect, et cetera, all good. And then you texted me halfway through the conference and tell the audience what you texted me, because this
Yes.
just blew me away.
So during the Zip keynote at the conference that I was at, so Level Path was also a sponsor at the conference, right? So they had a team here as well in Scottsdale, and they were delivering notes and chocolates to everyone's hotel room during the Zip keynote.
So let's unpack that because there's a couple of things going on. One, the fact that they were doing that during their main competitor, because right now it's a two-person race, and the fact that they targeted during the Zip keynote was, I just thought that was funny. But
And I'm going to assume it wasn't a coincidence, right? If it was, that is just crazy. My guess is it was planned that they had the hotel staff scheduled to deliver during this 45-minute or hour time slot.
and I will say that there is something special about going to back to your hotel room and a gift has been delivered. That's happened to me a number of times, and it's really, I don't know. For me, it brings a smile to my face. But I have a feeling because it's a very personal thing, because that room is your space temporarily, and to then have a gift delivered, that is that's a real, like, to me, that's a really level up of sort of effort. And then the fact that, and what I also like about it is the core team is in, across the world or across the globe, and yet they still manage to be able to create a very memorable experience in Scottsdale, Arizona, with the extended team. And I don't mean that pejoratively to say that
Yeah,
there's
no, it
hierarchy.
was divide and conquer.
Right. And so the team there, you would forgive any extended team or sort of divided team for not following through or not giving it the old 100%. But this actually really levels them up and says, yeah, like, we treat this conference, even though everybody went to the other conference, we're giving this our A game and our best effort and sort of investment. I thought that was really great.
Yeah. But again, now the cost on something like that is more, right? Because
Yes.
you've got to pay. Producing the actual note and chocolates is not very expensive. You do have to pay the hotel staff to do that, and I don't know what. So definitely a little, but in the scheme of things, it's way lower cost than, doing a keynote main stage presentation than being a platinum gold sponsor. So when you look at the level of sponsorship, I would consider that to be a lower cost compared to some of the other packages for conferences.
Yeah, and again, the two conferences going on simultaneously, they are at peak exposure, and I think that's, or at least for the venues, I think that's great. I mean, that's certainly amazing.
Yeah.
All right, so you want to give your example, and then I'll give another procurement
Okay.
example.
All right. So after San Antonio last week, I was in Cabo for a girls' trip. Actually, I think all of us on the trip either work or have worked in procurement or supply chain. So very, very supply chain procurement nerdy group. And I was flipping through my phone and I came across this article and it just made me laugh. And again, what are the odds that I came across this and we were doing our guerrilla marketing episode? But there's a woman named Lisa Cantilino. She lives in the Bay Area, so near Dr. Elouise and I. She's actually in San Mateo. And she was struggling with dating apps. So going on, and she was not meeting the right people. And she is in her 30s. She wants to have a serious relationship, or she's in her 40s. Sorry, she's 42, so my age. And she wants to get married and have kids. And she's got a window, right? She's got her clock ticking, and she's like, what am I going to do? So she turned to guerrilla marketing and launched a campaign to find a husband by running billboards on freeways. So
So great.
the article says that she has had 12 billboards. I personally have not seen one. I am actually hoping if I do, I'm going to take a video and stop and do pictures because I think it's amazing and so creative. But anyway, so she's run these billboards on major freeways here in the Bay Area. And then she launched a website called Marry Lisa that she built herself, and people go on and they fill out. She literally has a dating application on the website. And this was published October 24th, so about a week or so ago. So as of this date, it said she has 3,800 date applications. So she went rogue. Everyone else that she knew was using dating sites and it wasn't working for her. And she's like, well, why am I going to do what everyone else is doing? I'm not. And so she stopped. She rethought the process and is using billboards, which is a very old school traditional form of marketing. And now she's got all these candidates.
That's just so amazing. This actually brings up an interesting point because, and this technology, like we live in an age where we have these smartphones, and we've seen this a lot with the amusement parks and in the hotels in Vegas, or the hotels in general, of being able to identify you through a wristband or through your phone and give you customize, like catch your attention with dynamic billboards and dynamic discounts and things to attract you that are very digitally enabled and enhanced. And I think there's a question about how and what that is, and how effective technology is, or the QR codes.
Yeah.
There's been several, but both with Pizza Pete and with Lisa, those are very analog ways of their non-digital. And I think there is this question about, and just go back to Benioff's Salesforce, where he paid actors to pretend to protest, and they pretend to be the press, like they had fake camera people. So I do think there is an element, like this sort of grassroots feel that I was talking about, and emotionally resonant. There's something about that physical piece of pizza or that billboard, and so yeah, that
So
makes a visceral connection.
I have to just read her. So I have her website pulled up. I just have to read you one part of this. She says, applications back open. California men only ages 35 through 74 only. If you do not live in California, you are not in the age range, your application will be deleted and not looked at. Lisa has received over 3,800 applications from September 24th through October 15th and reviewed all of them personally and is currently reaching out to San Francisco Bay Area men to schedule dates. Due to the popular request to bring back the application forms, they are now live again for a limited time. And then she's got her 3 buttons: apply for yourself, apply on behalf of someone else, comments, questions, media inquiries.
There you
So
go.
one of the things you mentioned at the beginning in your definition is the ability to go viral. And this lady has gone viral. I mean, it's
Oh,
so funny and interesting. And so media outlets have started picking it up and talking about the story. I'm sure it's gone viral on social media. So I just think this is a great non-software case of how we can all use guerrilla marketing in our day-to-day lives. It doesn't always have to be tied to our careers and our jobs.
yeah. And I mean, it's amazing.
All right, I think you have another example.
Yes. So my next example is Spencer from Light Source. So shout out
Yes,
to the
I
whole Light.
witnessed this too, so we can both. I witnessed this in Vegas at the ISM conference.
Um, and yeah, so there's some yeah. So first of all, Spencer, like he's done a whole series of things that there's too many to list. And had we thought about it, we probably should have had him on and come talk about it. He's got great ideas for things that he's either done or is planning to do. And every time it's just like, wow, I'm just blown away. By the way, just have to give him credit because his booth at DPW was basically a Soviet era, like USSR. It looked like it, and I was talking to somebody. Somebody comes up to me, oh yeah, of his.
Wait, did you send me a photo of it? Did you take a picture?
I did.
Oh,
I
okay. You'll have to.
it,
I don't know
no,
that you sent it to me. You'll have to send me one.
yeah, I'll send it to you. We'll post it on, or maybe we can put it up here in the recording. It was brilliant, and he was actually handing out these little red books. Actually, I have mine right here. I haven't read mine yet, but I have it right here to be read. Actually,
So
I'll.
he handed something out that you actually are going to keep in reference.
Yeah, I mean, it's like literally right next to my desk, and you know that I don't like a lot of clutter on my desk. And it's a little red book, which is an ode to Mao's red book, and this is Spec to Scale Manifesto. So anyway, it's a little, and people, I saw a ton of these. First of all, Spencer was walking around with these in his hands and was handing them out. So I got mine because I ran into him and he said, "Have you read this?" And I said, "No," and he handed it to me. So like that alone, which is not really grassroots necessarily, but that's very effective. But yeah, so his booth stood out. Oh, so I was at the Zip conference and I was just chatting with a client who happened to be there. He's like, "Oh, I like that light whatever company." He didn't remember, it wasn't the right name. It was sort of light. Oh, it was Lightspeed, and I didn't correct him. And I'm like, "Oh, the one with the Soviet era booth." And he's like, "Yeah, that was."
Yeah.
So and sort of culturally, there might be some questions about using Soviet era iconography, but we'll set that aside. It was very, very clever. Anyway, that was not the story. At ISM a couple years ago, Spencer Actually, I think he's done this twice because I think it was the one in the ISM in Texas where he put fake $100 bills and
Okay,
just,
that's not, I didn't, he was in Vegas and did something else, so I'll explain. But yes, I heard about the $100 bills.
yeah, so he puts $100 and the fake $100 bills, and he not everywhere. I don't know what his thought process was, but he and then he had a hidden camera, and he's never published the video, but he did show me the video. Watching human behavior is just, it was like he should give that footage to a psychology department at some university to study the
Now,
psychology.
question was the money real?
No, no, no.
Or
It
did it
basically,
look real?
it looked real.
Okay,
It
so
looked,
people thought they were picking up a
yes.
real $100 bill. Okay, just wanted to clarify
Yeah.
for the listeners.
Yeah. So, because what you see on the video is somebody, like, people stopping, looking, picking it up, and like looking at some people looked around looking to say, like, somebody must have dropped this. And then it's only when they look closer do they realize, oh, come to booth, whatever, and visit Light Source. They realize, but at first glance, you don't get that. And there's this video of this guy. He's walking with his woman, and he sees the $100 bill, and he's on the left, she's on the right. He sees the $100 bill on the right of the woman. So as they get on the escalator, he gently guides her onto the escalator, walks behind her, and grabs the $100 bill. I mean, you see this and you think,
Oh my, you
oh
want
my
to
God.
know what? This would be a good character test for hiring,
Oh my God,
right?
yes.
You want to test somebody's ethics and like human responsibility? Put this in the mix.
Well, and they will do that where they'll take a candidate to dinner and then pay the restaurant or the server to mess something up, and they'll test how that person reacts. So I've seen that. Like, that's
So
anyway.
Spencer is someone who Dr. Elouise and I both know. He is very, very creative and innovative and is very into pushing the boundaries and not just doing very, corporate fluff, very safe. So it's for him, he's the founder. So he calls the shots and he can make those decisions, right? It's not as easy for folks who work at larger organizations, but he's a great example of somebody who's fully embraced it. I was at the ISM Dallas conference with Heather. Her and I like to attend events, and we hosted dinners. And one of the nights, him and I think it was one or two others on his team, we had like a big, long, it was a small restaurant, and our dinner group had kind of taken over the whole restaurant. And he saw us and he walked in. And what he was doing, and I don't remember, I should have picked a couple of them up. He had poker chips and was dropping them on the floor. And so again, similar to the money, the goal is that you're walking and you see a poker chip, right? I would pick it up.
Yeah.
And there was something on it about something funny, and then it had their booth number. And I don't remember, he had like these different phrases, but again, super low cost. Even if 2% of the people pick it up and take action and go to the booth and have a conversation, I mean, he's not out a lot. And it was kind of a trial figuring out how to get attention in Vegas, which is hard when you're doing a conference at a casino. So I thought that was really, I saw him and I'm like, what are you doing, Spencer? He was placing poker chips on the floor.
It's yeah, you got to keep your eyes peeled with him because he's like one of these super smart people, and his motor is always running.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was a good, I like that example because it was specific to procurement and procure tech, right? That's a way as someone who's working on the go-to-market side, you can be a little bit creative and make yourself stand out. Those listening, if you have any great ideas that you've implemented or that you've seen, please drop them in the comments because we'd love to build up our example library for this.
I have a couple more, just simple ones. And this again goes back to old school analog, because, and I sent you this. We have a very active text exchange, especially when we're both when we're not recording on a frequent basis. Uh, yeah, I saw this article that in 1994, when Red Bull was brand new, they were trying to make people think that everybody was drinking it. So what they did is they would go around to different cities and leave crushed up empty Red Bull cans on the
Mm.
on the sidewalk, which today, with today's sort of culturally, that may not be the
Yeah.
best thing right now, but I thought that was,
But
but
you know what? I bet you people remember it, and I bet you people would pick them up.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And in the comments, because I saw this on LinkedIn, somebody said that's strategic littering.
Yeah,
Somebody's like, nah, bro, that's just littering.
yeah.
And so these things can sort of blur that line of, is this a good idea?
Yeah,
Or,
is it politically or culturally acceptable, or can you push the bounds just a little enough to
yeah,
where you don't offend people, but that it's memorable?
exactly. And then I just credit so this one was not cheap, but I can't tell you how many times I reference this, and uh, is Red Bull. They sponsored this jump from the stratosphere, not the hotel, but the literal Earth stratosphere, where Felix Baumgartner essentially parachuted from the stratosphere, and it's an amazing video to watch, and it was sponsored by Red Bull, and so Red Bull was all over everything. So
It makes
uh,
me that example makes me think of musicians in Vegas. Like, and I don't know if it's still a thing. Vegas has changed a lot, but that's how a lot of musicians would get started, as they would be on the street, right? And they would get a crowd and practice and then do stunts, and it was memorable, right? People would stop what they were doing, and then people started recording and doing videos, and that's how you hear a lot of those people actually got their start.
yeah, so we have. I'm just going to give you a live idea, or we're going to ideate a live idea for either another episode, but I think guerrilla marketing kind of bumps up to trolling. And there has been, like, Burger King is well known for trolling McDonald's. And like, they ran this event where if you went into a McDonald's and ordered on the Burger King app, you got some discount. So you had people going to McDonald's and then leaving to go to Burger King. Like, there are some, like, next level trolling
You know what
that,
else too, I think, is in sports.
yes,
There's a big, especially like the big rivals.
yes, yeah. So anyway, that I maybe we'll bookmark that for a future episode. But I do think this idea of trolling um, is really interesting.
Yeah, and you've got brands like Lululemon who have maybe been pretty controversial, and then you've got other competitors kind of popping up in the space that try to piggyback on success, but also change the narrative a bit.
Yeah, and I think I talked to you about after DPW New York, and I did that side event with and it was called AI's biggest ups,
Yeah.
and one of the founders there admitted that his domain had been bought by a competitor, and who who happens to be somebody we may have just been talking about. So
Hint, hint.
so but like, that again, that's sort of on that line of, like, trolling, because
Yeah.
that sponsor of the event, their website goes to a competitor's website.
Yeah.
So there are these sort of, like, I think trolling, again, we won't get into it today, but I think there is some interesting sort of, yeah, Ones.
I see a fun troll graphic on our video cover for that episode.
Yes. All right. We'll add it to the list. See, this is how it happens.
All right, I think that's a wrap for today. We will be back next Wednesday with another episode. As always, if you have feedback or suggestions or recommendations for us, feel free to reach out on LinkedIn or drop a note in the comments.